Getting AI to move in your Unity game is relatively straightforward. To get started, you'll need the Unity AI navigation package. You can do this by going to Window, then Package Manager, then click the little plus icon up on the top left and choose Add Package by Name. Then in here, just type com.unity.ai.navigation and then press the Add button. Then you should see it come up in your package manager once it's finished installing. Now that it's finished installing, we're going to want an empty object that's just going to hold our NavMesh Surface component. You can put this anywhere, it doesn't really matter. And it doesn't have to be named NavMesh Surface either. I'm going to go over to Add Component and I'm going to add a NavMesh Surface. There's a bunch of useful settings on this component that you can go through and modify, like the agent settings, and you can set errors and things like that. But the only thing we're interested in for now is the Use Geometry dropdown, and we're going to change it from Render Meshes to Physics Colliders. What this does is, if you bake the mesh at the moment, it's going to use every single render mesh in the scene to calculate where the AI can move. But I want the NavMesh Surface to only consider Physics Colliders for where the AI can actually navigate. Now that that's set up, I'm going to create a new plane. You can just use whatever existing surface. It doesn't have to be a plane. Just make sure that it's got a collider on it if you're using the Physics Colliders geometry option. Now I'm going to go back to our NavMesh Surface Manager and I'm going to click Bake. And you should see that it's created the bake data in this file. To see what's actually been baked as walkable, I'm going to click on the Gizmos button and you'll see a blue area which marks what has been rendered as walkable for the AI. If you can't see it, click the little drop down arrow and type NavMesh Surface and make sure that option is ticked. Okay, cool. So now that we've got our NavMesh Surface baked, I'm going to create our actual AI. So I'm going to right click here, 3D object, and I'm just going to create a capsule. And I'm going to call this AI, it doesn't matter what it's called. And I'm just going to make sure it's up here and I'm going to move it along. I'm going to remove the collider for now. And I'm going to go into my project here. I've made a scripts folder. Again, it doesn't matter where this goes. I'm going to create a C# script. I'm going to call this AI_controller. Does not matter what you call this. I'm just calling it that because it makes sense for me. Before we do anything here, I'm going to go up to the using statements and I'm just going to add using Unity engine.ai. This makes sure that we're using the AI package in this script. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, just above the class declaration, do an open square bracket and do require component, do a curly bracket and do type of, do another curly bracket and do NavMeshAgent. Now yours should be coloured correctly. I don't know why mine isn't. I'm just going to restart my Visual Studio. There we go. It's coloured correctly now. And what this does is essentially any place that we put this script on, it will make sure that a NavMeshAgent component is already on it. If there isn't one, it will create one for us. So what's nice about this is we don't have to worry in the future about us forgetting to place NavMeshAgents on the object or anything like that. It also means we don't need to worry about assigning the object in the inspector. So we can create as many as we want without having to worry about prefabs. So I'm going to have a private NavMeshAgent and I'm going to call it agent. You can make this public. It's completely up to you. I'm just having it private for this example. And then I'm going to create a public void awake. And in here, I'm just going to set agent to get component NavMeshAgent. And remember this part up here, our require component, make sure that there is always a NavMeshAgent when this script is added to it. So I'm going to save our script now. And if we pop back into Unity, I'm going to click on our AI object and drag our script onto it. And you can see that it's actually created that NavMeshAgent component for us just above, which just alleviates a step for us, especially in the future. There's some options you can edit here. I'm going to keep them all as they are for now. And to get the agent to move, all I need to do now is just agent.setDestination and then give it a vector 3. So I could do new vector 3 0 0 0, or the shorthand of writing that is actually vector 3.0. And if I save that and pop back into Unity and I press play, you can see our agent actually moved to the position of 0, 0, 0. Okay, perfect. So I'm now going to go back into our script and I'm just going to add an override method that's just going to make things a little bit easier for us to use. So I'm going to create a public void SetDestination and I'm using the same naming convention as the agent component itself just to make things a bit easier to know what they're doing and so we don't get confused. I'm going to take here a transform and I'm just going to call this target. And then inside this method, I'm going to do agent.setDestination to target.position. Now, this is absolutely not necessary for you to do. You can just simply use this and you could put it up here. But what this allows us to do later on is it just simplifies it a bit, because we can now just do SetDestination and give it a transform. So I'm going to up here do a public transform t, and this is going to be our target for testing, and I'm just going to pass it t. So you can see already we've kind of saved a lot of reading effort for our eyes. This longer line of code that's calling the method on this other component and passing it a vector-free variable, we've now just got a built-in method where we just pass a transform. So I'm going to save that, hop back into Unity, and let's create a 3D object. Let's have it as a cube. I'll get rid of the collider, and I'm going to click back on our AI and assign that cube to t. And if we press play, actually I'm going to move the cube over here and press play. You can see our AI is now moving to the cube. Now, something really cool that we can do with this, which you can implement into your game if you would like, make an update function, and I'm actually going to just move this SetDestination t into the update function and get rid of the old SetDestination stuff, as we don't want that to interfere. Now, what this is going to do is it's actually going to set the destination for this agent to that object every single frame. Now, do keep in mind that you might not want this exact format for your final product, as it will be very performance heavy, because you're updating the destination unnecessarily, recalculating the route where needed every single frame, which is a bit heavy. But just for the sake of displaying this, you can see that now if I drag this target around, our AI is actually completely navigating perfectly fine without me having to do any kind of input other than move this square, which is really cool. And you can make lots of simple game ideas just from that concept alone. Okay, so the last thing we're going to look at is obstacles. So I'm going to right click in here and I'm going to create a 3D object of type cube. I'm going to leave the collider on it this time, and I'm just going to adjust the size of it a little bit. And in the component section, I'm going to look for a NavMesh obstacle. By the way I'm getting this up straight away is I've got NavMesh typed in up here, and it will just fill them out. I'm now going to click NavMesh obstacle, and I'm going to click carve. Obviously, adjust the center and size to whatever you need, but since I've scaled the actual object rather than the collider, I don't have to worry about this. Now that we've pressed the carve option, you can see that our existing NavMesh surface has actually been carved out. It's got a hole in it, which is how these NavMesh obstacles work. So now if I'm going to actually just increase the size a little bit, and you can see that it's updating live as I'm adjusting that. So now if I hit play, and I'm going to move our target object, and you can see that if I say move it right to the other side, the AI is actually navigating all the way around this cube instead of directly going through it, and it's not getting stuck either. If it's somewhere that's maybe unreasonable like that, it's either going left or right around it, whichever's closest, and it calculates that for us in real time. I hope this super simple rundown on how to use Unity's AI NavMeshAgent has helped. I'd love to see how you're using it in your project, so do be sure to come and join us on Discord and share your projects, and let me know of any other kind of tutorials that you'd like in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.